full-grown man, baby.
Weren't familiar with, and it gave some dignity to this portrayal. So it's a mixed bag. Indeed, Cody exploited Indians, created stereotypes that have become increasingly negative over the years. On the other hand, there seemed to be a lot of mutual respect between his Native American employees and himself. They tended to like being in the Wild West show, and he treated Native American employees with dignity and with fairness, like he treated all of his employees.
I was very sick, so I went to see the long hair. He was glad to see me. Then he asked me if I wanted to be in the show or if I wanted to go home. I told him I was sick, to go home, so he said he would fix that. He gave me a ticket and $90, and he gave me a big dinner. Longhair had a strong heart. Black Elk, 1889.
In general, he was interested in developing the West, and he was also interested in human beings. Cody was a good citizen of our community.
Cody said he wanted to be remembered not just as a scout and a showman, but as a developer of civilization. He sank millions from his personal wealth into towns, hotels, irrigation projects, and charities throughout the West. Investments that would never pay off in his lifetime. He founded the town of Cody, Wyoming, and built the luxurious Irma Hotel, long before the city needed such a fine establishment.
Well, he built the Irma Hotel. It was opened in 1902, and he named it after my mother, Irma. I guess they must have waited several years before they rented the first room, because it was one of the first buildings in Cody, and gosh almighty, look at all those rooms. You know that he couldn't have, but that's the way he was. He wasn't very practical on some of the investments he made. He wasn't looking at the dollar, he was looking at building the West. And the Irma never did make any money.
By 1910, Cody desperately wanted to retire, but he became a slave to his investments. Movies were taking over, leaving less of a place for Cody's theatrical events. The Wild West fell on hard times. Cody was forced to continue performing deep into old age just to pay off his debts.
Cody was crippled by the financial collapse of the Wild West show, and in his later years became increasingly pathetic as a figure. He had to work for others, and became just one more feature of other people's shows. He went on a series of farewell tours, but he could never quit. He needed the money, so it was sort of a sad end for Buffalo Bill.
Dear sister, I'm feeling a good deal better. I'm trying to fight that terrible disease, worry. If I can master that, my health would improve right along. Love, brother. They had the curtain off an alcove for him, and they would lead his horse into the alcove, and Johnny Baker would help him get up in the saddle. And Cody would sit there all slumped over because he had arthritis, rheumatism, his kidneys were failing. He'd hear his cue, and he'd snap to attention. The curtains would flash open, and he'd ride around the arena one time every show like he was a youngster. He'd get back into the alcove, the curtains would close, and he would collapse, and Johnny Baker would take him to his tent. And he was 70 years old, and he was dying.
On November 11th, 1916, Buffalo Bill played his last show. On January 10th, 1917, the last of the great scouts passed away at his sister's home in Denver, Colorado.
He was the kindest, simplest, most loyal man I ever knew. He was the staunchest friend. He was, in fact, the personification of those sturdy and lovable qualities that really made the West. The sun setting over the mountain will pay its daily tribute to the resting place of the last of the great builders of the West, all of which you loved, and part of which you were. Annie Oakley, 1917.
Like most legendary heroes, the story of Buffalo Bill will always be surrounded by controversy. However, there is little doubt William F. Cody was a skilled marksman, superb horseman, and a courageous scout. He will always be remembered as a forward-looking developer and, of course, as a brilliant showman, creating the most thoroughly American entertainment ever produced. He revitalized the memory of the Old West before it faded completely. Buffalo Bill personified the spirit of the American frontier. He transformed vision into action and history into romance.
Halloween is more than trick or treat.
The mask that has sold the most has been the predictor of the eventual winner.
From the latest in extreme pumpkin carving,
I got sick of seeing the terrible painted pumpkins you see at the grocery store,
to the secrets of fake blood. Halloween tech on Modern Marvels, tonight at 8 on History.
Warning, the dangerous stunts in extreme marksman are performed by trained professionals. Do not attempt this yourself.
Hello? Something's